welcome to track 3. If this is your first session in track 3, hello and welcome from me. My name is Michaela Vogel and I work for Solutions to Share in the event management area. And it is my pleasure to moderate this track 3 for this summit today, and to introduce our last session in this track before we head over to the expert circle and the end of this event. But before that, we will hear Oliver Wirkus, who is MVP, talking about his personal lessons when it comes to Microsoft Teams and rollouts at organizations. And with that, I will hand over to Oliver.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michaela. It's a pleasure to be here. And hello, everybody. And welcome to my session. Before I continue with my session, please allow me to turn off my camera because my slide deck is on the big monitor over there. And if I would leave my camera on, it would look like this permanently, and this might be a little bit unpleasant for you. So let me continue with sharing my screen. Here we go. And you should see my screen now, hopefully. Okay, so welcome to my session. This session is all about my personal lessons learned from my most recent Microsoft Teams rollouts. So as Michaela just announced, my name is Oliver Wirkus. I'm an MVP for Microsoft Office Apps and Services, and I'm working as a technical solution architecture advisor with Entity Data Services in Canada, and I'm located in the beautiful Halifax, Nova Scotia. If you would like to reach out to me, please feel free to use my personal email address, which you can find here on that slide, or you can also reach out to me via LinkedIn, for example, or Twitter, or things like that. Okay, let's dive right in and let's have a quick look at the agenda, which I prepared for today. So as you can see, it's a very short agenda, and let's have a quick look. So first, I would like to talk about the common organizational goals. So I think this will help us a bit to understand what did not work well with the recent rollouts and what did work well, which is topic number 2 and topic number 3 that you can see here on this agenda. So topic number 2 and topic number 3, that is the main part of my session, and I will walk you through my personal experiences. And last but not least, at the end of this session, I have just a few recommendations, just one slide with some recommendations, which I hope will help you when you roll out Teams or have rolled out Teams already and experience some issues. Okay. Without further ado, let's dive right in and have a quick look at the organizational goals. So this slide here, this is a summary of the feedback I received when I talked to, let's say, stakeholders, team leads, department leads, or the management of medium-sized or large-sized organizations. So the question was, okay, what are your goals that you would like to achieve by rolling out Microsoft Teams? And these are the 5 answers I got. So it all starts with support for working from home, which means, we all, or most of us, are working from home these days, and there needs to be a platform that we can use, not just for online meetings, which is another organizational goal here that you can see in the middle, but it's also we also need to have a platform that you can use from home to work on documents, to save documents to a safe location, and to ensure that the documents or the artifacts that you save are available to others in your organization. It doesn't make sense to save your documents to your local computer, because if something happens, these documents may be gone. So support for working from home, support for online meetings, those are the organization goals that most of the organizations want to achieve. But there's also something about better management of teams, which means working from home in the global pandemic, this enforces the usage of Teams. And I don't mean Microsoft Teams here, but actual teams, project teams, or teams that work or collaborate together and want to achieve a specific goal. So that is another organizational goal, which ties into enhanced collaboration, which means that, well, if you're working as a team, you need to have some collaboration features that you can use. And that can be, for example, co-authoring on a document, or a quick chat that you use when you want when you would like to chat with somebody else and just check if this somebody else can help you with something and things like that. Excuse me. And last but not least, that is what you see on the left side of this slide. That is modernized conference room. So at the moment, yeah, we are still working from home, or most of us, but some organizations have started to, yeah, kind of get their employees back to the offices, and now they are, well, modernizing their conference rooms, adding additional cameras and bigger screens and better microphones, for example, just to ensure that the transitioning from working at home, working in the office, isn't that tough for employees. So these are the organizational goals that I think many, if not all, organizations would like to achieve with rolling out teams. Basically, that is a driver for them to roll out teams. But if you just roll out teams, things can go wrong. And in my recent rollouts, I noticed some things that kind of went off the rails. And yeah, let me just share my experience here. Here we go. So what did not work well? So topic number one here is unclear requirements. So if you would like to use Microsoft Teams in your organization, and if you, well, are about to roll out Microsoft Teams or have just rolled out Microsoft Teams, there are a few things that organizations want to, yeah, want to achieve. But if you check with, let's say, stakeholders or the management, in terms of requirements, sometimes you get answers like this. So, for example, we need a platform to enable our staff to work from home, or we want to better support our project teams, or we need to make working from home more efficient. Well, to me, these are not requirements. These are, yeah, let's say this meant statements, or this might be a kind of vision that stakeholders or the management would like to achieve. But these are not requirements, and these statements do not help at all when you plan a rollout of Microsoft Teams, because this is far, far too high level. So what is there something we can do? Yes, I think so. So my recommendation here is, if you stumble upon those requirements, those high level statements, let's say it this way, my suggestion is to continue with an extensive requirements gathering. So, which means stop all your plans regarding the rollout, step back, gather requirements, talk to stakeholders, department leads, and the management. And once you've collected these requirements, categorize, prioritize, and structure these requirements. And if you've done that, create a project plan based on the prioritized requirements, and then continue from there. Basically, what that means is a rollout of Microsoft Teams, which is, I think, true for almost every rollout, needs to be handled as a project, very similar to, let's say, a software project or things like that. And it all starts with requirements gathering. Another thing that did not work well is, well, unclear governance. I think we can all agree that if you want to use Microsoft Teams, there needs to be a little governance. And for small organizations, or for modern organizations, or organizations that are more hands-on, well, I think less requirements, or just a few governance policies will do. But if you look at larger organizations, really large organizations, or if you, for example, roll out Teams for, let's say, the government, or for, yeah, I don't know, a big plant or a power plant, or an organization that, for example, requires security clearances for all the employees, there need to be a lot more governance. And what usually did not work well in the recent rollouts, that is too less governance around how to use Teams, because too less governance means, Well, users can do almost everything, and sometimes users get confused because, well, if you can do everything, you might become unsure. Am I allowed to do that? Can I share this document with a guest user, or shouldn't I? Another thing is, how are external users, guest users involved? That is usually a big topic, and it's not just around, okay, external users, guest users, can they join meetings? But what can you, or what are you allowed to do as an employee? Are you allowed to share something with external users? Can you do screen share with external users? Can you allow them to participate in chats? Or another big topic is no guidelines on what to use when. SharePoint, Teams. If you roll out Teams, can you allow your employees to save their documents to Teams or to a Teams-enabled SharePoint site? Which documents can be saved to Teams? Which need to be saved to SharePoint? Which need to be saved to, let's say, another system? Right? So these are questions that occur when there is too less governance. What can you do? Well, there's a solution, I guess. So my recommendation is establish a governance committee, which is responsible for all the governance policies in your organization. Publish a corporate governance document, and well, this can be a document, but my recommendation is that make it fun to read. Don't just create 60 pages in a Word document, because that is nobody reading, right? So nobody's reading that. Make it fun to read, and add some gamification or fun to it. So as an example, I worked with a client, and this client created a corporate governance document based on a comic, and this was really fun to read. Create a center of excellence with detailed information, and here a center of excellence means basically a SharePoint site that you use as a kind of knowledge center for everything around Teams. Not just the center of excellence that Microsoft is offering for, let's say, Power Apps, for example. I think a center of excellence needs to provide much, much more. It's a more kind of knowledge center, or a place for self-service. And last but not least, if there is unclear governance, ensure that you have proper and tailored change management activities. And tailored here means change management activities need to be tailored not just to the entire organization, but to teams in your organization. Just as an example, some teams in your organization, or some groups, let's say this way, some groups, some departments, they are more tech savvy than others. And well, change management activities for a tech savvy group might not work for a group that, well, doesn't like to use modern technology, let's say this way. Yeah, this brings me to another topic that did not work well. This is poor or insufficient change management. Change management is super important, especially if you roll out modern technology, and if you want your users to switch from older technology to newer technology, like Microsoft Teams, for example. Believe it or not, I worked with an organization. This organization was still using Links, and they switched to Teams, and that was a huge endeavor. And this only worked well because we planned change management activities at the very beginning of the entire project. So users are overwhelmed with changes. That can happen if there is insufficient change management, or users or teams don't know how to use Teams efficiently. They might be able to use Teams, well, but they might not be aware of all the features or all the things that you can do in Teams. And again, that is what change management needs to teach them. And migration, another topic here. So unclear migration path for old data and documents. Just as an example, if an organization is still using corporate file share and wants to use Teams as their new repository for, let's say, collaboration files, or files that need to be in access for a specific team. Again, this requires change management and tailored change management. So this is my recommendation here. Involve change management team very early. My recommendation is right from the start. Change management activities must be tailored to the audience, and I think I talked about that already. And you need to focus on the needs of employees. So change management needs to help employees to use modern technology. Focus on the needs of the employees and do not focus too much on the needs of the organization, because employees, those are the ones who work with modern technology on a daily basis. And last but not least, make it entertaining and use gamification. Gamification really works well when you use it with change management. Okay, last but not least, on what did not work well, this is something I titled or subtitled here, unclear handling of features. So there are a lot of features in Microsoft Teams, a lot of things you can do, but if it's not clear how these features should be used, if it's not clear how you can use those features, then you will definitely run into issues. An example here is how are licenses and features managed. So there are different licenses that you can use in Microsoft Teams. So some users just require a basic license that allows them to, let's say, use Teams and participate in meetings. Some others need a little bit more sophisticated license, which allows them to host meetings, to run meetings, to schedule meetings. Some might even require the option to, let's say, add a dial-in option to their meeting invites, things like that. Need to be clear who can record meetings and where are the recordings stored. So meeting recordings, yeah, that's a big topic, and sometimes you would like to keep the recordings, and then there needs to be there needs to be some guidance around where these recordings are saved to. And last but not least, and I just mentioned it, how is the dial-in support managed? So usually that's a big topic with organizations. And my recommendation here is focus on what your employees need. So don't focus on the features, don't focus on all the functionality and the technology that Microsoft Teams is offering. Focus on what your employees really need. And employees here, those can be different types and different groups of employees. Not everyone in your organization might require a dial-in option for the meetings. Not everybody in your organization needs to be able to record meetings. There need to be platform admins and corporate communications, for example, and the legal department. They should join the corporate governance committee. So these teams can work together to ensure that Teams is used in an efficient manner in your organization. It should not just be the corporate governance the corporate governance committee with a few users that are responsible for managing policies. There need to be others, members of other teams, organizations, departments that join the corporate governance committee just to ensure that policies work well. My recommendation here is restrict only what must be restricted. Don't be too restrictive in terms of teams. Just restrict what definitely needs to be restricted. And give your users or offer your users some freedom in terms of using Microsoft Teams. And I think that works as long as they are not violating any security policies. And last but not least, what really worked well for me is instead of unclear handling of features and confusion, provide job aids so that employees can quickly look up topics. And a job aid here, that is just a quick document. It can be half a page or at least, or at max 1 page in a Word document. And each job aid focus on one specific topic. So as an example, if a host is unsure how to record a meeting, and if there are specific policies around recording meetings, well, this host can quickly look up the job aid and just check, okay, this is what I need to do to be able to record a meeting. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, done. And this can even happen 5 minutes before the meeting is started. So that is the big advantage here for a job aid. Okay, these have been the things that did not work well in my recent rollouts. So let's turn the page and let's have a look at what worked well. So to me, these are the things that worked well in terms of requirements analysis. And I'm a big fan of requirements analysis right from the beginning. And what really worked well for me is not just to gather requirements from users, from teams, but also gather requirements from the management. And if you do that, if you really do that, then I think you will be surprised what you're able to dig up here in terms of requirements, because management sometimes has, yeah, let's say this way, very specific requirements. Also, check what other requirements expressed by teams. The teams are the ones who use that functionality. You use teams on a daily basis, and I think they should know best their daily business and how it can be improved. And my recommendation here is categorize these requirements and plan the entire rollout in phases. What that means, well, we will have a look at that at one of the next slides. Early involvement of key users. And this is definitely something I can't stress enough. So what I like to do is I like to create POCs, so proof of concepts, or pilots, as it's sometimes called. And I would like to run multiple of these POCs with different users. So there can be a POC, and usually that's one of the first POCs, and you can run that with, let's say, very tech-savvy people in your organization, or with early adopters, as they are often called. But another POC, a second one, I like to run with users who are not that tech savvy, who might be a little bit afraid of new technology and not really sure how to use it. And this gives you a very good insight on what you need to do in terms of change management for your Microsoft Teams rollout. So to me, this is kind of top tip. Adjust your planning based on the outcome of the POCs. That is exactly what I mean. So run multiple POCs with different users and plan according to the outcome of that. And last but not least, carefully listen to key users and take their feedback seriously. I added this because, well, I need to declare myself guilty as well, because I'm still working as a consultant here. And consultants, well, sometimes have an issue with listening. Consultants like to talk, like to speak, as I do at the moment, right? But if you're collecting feedback from users, you should listen, really listen, take notes, and don't talk too much. Listen to what the users tell you. Don't try to convince them. Don't try to explain anything. Just listen and collect their feedback. And this really helps. What else did work well? Oh, platform owners, user support, and technical support. So that is all around managing Microsoft Teams as a platform. And what worked well here is there must be no doubt on who owns the platform. This might be a very, yeah, silly topic here, to be honest, but you would be surprised that there are a lot of organizations out there who haven't really defined who is responsible for a platform. There needs to be a platform owner, and this platform owner is responsible for the platform. This does not mean that this platform owner needs to pay for the platform or needs to manage that platform. But this platform owner needs to be responsible for that platform and needs to take care of the platform. Establish a detailed user support and a COE. So I think this is a good time to talk a little bit about what I think a COE is. So COE for me stands for Center of Excellence. And in easy words, this is a, let's say, this is a knowledge management tool that you can use to provide information, very detailed information on everything related to Microsoft Teams. This can start with an explanation on what Teams is. This can continue with an explanation on corporate policies. You can add, let's say, the corporate governance document, sorry. You can add, let's say, tips and tricks, and you can add some detailed screenshots on how to do things. You can even include a Yammer channel that users can use to chat around, let's say, features or things that they found is working or it's not working, or they have issues with. Think of this as a huge knowledge center that really supports your users. The benefit here is that a center of excellence, if you build it that way, can really help you with lowering the efforts you need to spend on supporting that platform, supporting users. Users can use that center of excellence as a kind of self-service portal. So whenever they have a question, or they don't know how to do things, or they need a little bit of explanation, they can go to the COE. And if you structure the COE well, then users will find their answers in most cases. If they do not find what they're looking for, then for sure they can, for example, submit a ticket to your IT support and ask them and ask for help. But if you have created a COE and provide a well structure and if you well structured it well this way, then the users will be able to find what they are looking for. It takes some effort, yes, that's true, but this is only effort that you need to spend at the beginning. Once everything is in place, you just need to update your COE, and if you structured it well, the efforts on updating the COE are not that much. Okay, last and least, define clearly when IT support needs to take over, and that goes hand in hand with just what I explained. So users can go to the center of excellence if they have questions, if they want to find out how things are working, what they need to do, things like that. But if they're experiencing technical issues, for example, like Teams is not working, I can't record, in my meeting invite, the dial-in option is gone, things like that. This can't be solved in a COE. And for topics like this, users need to create an IT ticket. But it needs to be well defined when to use an IT ticket and when to navigate to the center of excellence. It's not easy to achieve, I know, but it takes some education. But if you provide some guidelines around this, and if you, for example, add a specific section in your center of excellence that explains how to get support, I think you can manage that, and you can explain users when to use the COE and when to submit a ticket. Documentation, that is another topic. So modern platforms like Microsoft Teams, for example, they require some documentation. Documentation here, that is all around using Teams, corporate policies, and stuff like that. But the way that you create that documentation, or the way that you publish that documentation, that defines a lot on how this documentation is used and how users are using that documentation. As an example, so if you come up with, let's say, 40, 50, or 60 pages in a Word document on corporate policies and how to use Teams, you can be sure that nobody in your organization is reading that document. Nobody wants to read 40, 50, 60 pages on Microsoft Teams. It is just too much time required to read that. Instead, make it easy to use, right? Split it up into multiple documents on specific topics. Make it fun to read, add gamification. And at the beginning, I mentioned that there's an option to create that as a comic, for example, or as a kind of storybook, right? There are so many options there if you just be a little bit creative. And with these options you have, you can make it fun to read and easy to read. And the more you do that, the more employees are actually looking at the documentation, using it, and reading it. Establish and describe self-service options. That is all around the COE, the Center of Excellence that I just mentioned. If users need to file an IT ticket for each and everything that is not working as expected, users get frustrated because, let's be honest, creating an IT ticket, it takes some time until you have created that ticket. It takes some time until the problem is solved and so on. But sometimes you need a quick solution and a fast solution. So self-service options should be established, and you can use your center of excellence for that, and add a section on how to get help, as I explained before. And last but not least, and again, that's a topic on a center of excellence, keep it up to date. If you decide to use a center of excellence, you need to keep it up to date. You don't want your center of excellence that you spend so much effort on at the beginning to become a digital dumping ground, because that is definitely not helping anybody in your organization. Keep it up, work on it, add new topic, restructure it. For example, replace some images, give it a modern look and feel. Sometimes it needs an entire overhaul to make it look prettier or more modern, or you want to use a different structure because the old structure didn't work well. There is some effort that you need to spend in maintaining a center of excellence. But in my experience, if you spend that effort, there's a reward for it, because your users, they will notice, hey, there is a center of excellence and it's kept up to date, and there's a team working on it, and I can find all the information I need in that center of excellence. Hey, that's a good job and I like to use it. And these users will spread the word, and others will come to your center of excellence and check it as well. Good. Those have been the topics on what worked well, what did not work well in my recent rollouts. Let me provide you a quick overview on my personal best practices and recommendations. And after that, there's a lot of time for questions and answers. And I think in the beginning or prior to this event, Michaela told me I should try to limit my presentation to, let's say, 30, 35, at max 40 minutes, which I think I did. So we have a lot of time for questions and answer if you would like to chat on topics. Good. Let's have a quick look on my best practices. And let's start on the left side here, where it says know your goals and requirements. This is all around the requirements gathering and what you or your organization wants to achieve. You need to have a clear view on that, because if you don't have a clear view, how are you supposed to roll out Microsoft Teams for the entire organization? Also, goals and requirements, they come with milestones and success factors, because in the end, after the rollout, you need to prove to your management or to the stakeholders that the rollout was successful. And you can only do that with, let's say, milestones and success factors. And if you want to define both, well, you need to know your goals and requirements at the beginning. So spend some time on requirements gathering and structuring and prioritizing your requirements. That will definitely help you in the end. Establish a dedicated team. And dedicated team here means, well, there should be a team that is responsible for the rollout from the beginning to the very end. And this includes technical experts, that includes communication experts, that includes change management experts, and so on. So this is not just a one-man show here. We need to have a dedicated team that is working on the rollout. And again, this team should manage the entire rollout as a process, very similar to, let's say, a software rollout or things like that. And for sure, yes, we are talking about a team, and this team needs a team lead. Basically, the team lead, that is the one who is responsible for the rollout and for managing the rollout team. I mentioned that at the beginning, that I like to run multiple POCs. And let me quickly bring that back as a topic here, because I think this is super important. And again, I like to do at least 2 POCs, one with tech-savvy people and one with, let's say, people who are more resistant or that don't like to use modern technology. And the feedback I can get from these 2 POCs, that is very helpful when it comes to creating the project plan, rolling out teams, and for change management activities as well, because these POCs show to the change management team that there are different groups of users, and the change management team can adjust their change management activities to the specific audience, means to the specific team. Governance and change management should start prior to the rollout. Yes, they should start right from the beginning. And that is the reason why I would like to see a governance expert and at least a change management expert in the rollout team that I mentioned at the beginning. If you start with governance and change management after the rollout or even at the end of the rollout, there's too less time for those teams to get onboarded, to get up to speed. And a kind of gap occurs, and this gap is very, very bad for the rollout and for the user experience and for the user acceptance. So that is the reason why I like to start with governance and change management activities right from the beginning, and both should be a part of the dedicated team. I think I talked a lot about the Center of Excellence. So just keep in mind that a Center of Excellence is very helpful here, and it's definitely one of my recommendations and best practices. But you should also create a kind of community of users. You can add that to the Center of Excellence, just add a Yammer channel and allow people to build a community around Microsoft Teams, for example, where they can exchange experiences. They can chat about Teams, what is working well, what is not working well, and things like that. But the change management team, they can also look at this Yammer channel and they can get some very helpful feedback from the responses of the users. So a community of users is a perfect addition for, I think, every center of excellence. Okay, last but not least, and that is the last topic I would like to talk about here in my slides, publish job aid and self-service options. I mentioned that already. So job aids are very, very helpful. And a job aid, just to repeat that, that's a short document that is just focusing on one specific topic, like how can I create, how can I create an invite in Microsoft Teams? How can I record a meeting? How can I ensure that external or guest users can join my meeting? Things like that. And these job aids, they should be written in a way that users can, well, quickly navigate to the Center of Excellence, pick a specific job aid, read through it, and know what to do. And that can even happen 5 minutes before a meeting is starting. Self-service options, again, that is all around Center of Excellence. But if there is, or at a certain point, users can't use self-service options anymore, they need to file a ticket with corporate IT. And this needs to be defined clearly in the Center of Excellence. So when can users file a ticket? When are users supposed to look at the Center of Excellence? All right, a lot of talking. But this is all I would like to share today based on my most recent experiences with Microsoft Teams and rollout at different organizations. This is your time for questions. So if you have any questions, please feel free to bring them up, post them in the chat, raise your hand, or let Michaela know that you have a question, and I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Oliver. I think we do have a question, which I'm going to show on stage right now.
Mm-hmm. Do you recommend building your Center of Excellence in Teams itself or separately, such as on an intranet or SharePoint site? Yeah, that's a great question. And thank you, Laura, for asking that. So I have created, or I have supported creating Center of Excellence mostly in SharePoint. And SharePoint Online is a great tool for that. And the reason is in SharePoint Online, you have so many options to structure your Center of Excellence, to provide, well, documentation, information, screenshots. You can even add short videos to it, or you can create links to stream. You can embed Yammer feeds and things like that. So SharePoint Online is, to me, the perfect tool to create a Center of Excellence. But it does not mean that you need to rely on SharePoint Online entirely. So you can use other services in Microsoft 365, like Yammer or Microsoft Stream. But I think SharePoint Online should be the leading system. Does that answer the question?
Okay. I think I will mark this as answered. If there's a follow-up question, I will be sure she
Mhm.
will post it in the chat because there's another one also
Okay.
from Laura.
Any suggestions on what to do if our governance change management experts are not tech savvy? Okay, that's a problem. I know. We included them in the POC, but they still struggle to connect their knowledge to this technology project. Yeah. So in that case, and please, or don't get me wrong on that, I don't want to be rude, but in that case, I think your governance and change management experts might not be the right ones for this job. Because if you're working in a, let's say, governance committee, you need to be kind of tech savvy, or at least know what you're doing. You need to be kind of enthusiastic with new technology. And I think the same is true for change management. And change management, I think, requires much more. You also need to be, yeah, you also need to be a kind of entertainer, because um, you need to, yeah, you need to kind of entertain people. And if you can do that, it's much easier for you to to publish your change management activities. I don't have a recommendation here, other than you might want to think about yeah, replacing some of your experts with others, people who are a little bit more tech savvy. Not easy to do. I totally understand that, but I think that would be something to consider.
Thank you very much for those two answers. Right now, I cannot see more questions in the chat, but I do have one.
Sure,
So
go
I've
ahead.
been wondering, maybe it's just a question of words, but for me, the Center of Excellence sounded a lot like a wiki, basically,
Mhm.
or a knowledge base. Is that the
Yeah.
same thing, or is there any difference?
Um, I wouldn't say it's the same thing, but it goes in the same direction. So I think wiki, that's a kind of, yeah, I wouldn't say old school term, but it's a term that has been used quite a lot in the recent years. And the way that I am envisioning a center of excellence, that is much more. It's not just a wiki. It's not just a knowledge base. Well, as I mentioned before, it contains knowledge, yes, but it also contains, let's say, multimedia elements like videos or screenshots. It can also include features to build a community, like Yammer, for example. So
Mm.
to answer your question, a center of excellence is a little bit like a old SharePoint wiki on steroids. Let's say it this way.
I think that's a really fun picture to explore. Wiki on store, SharePoint wiki on steroids. But I think I get the difference. So the
Mhm.
wiki would be only, well, mostly text based, including links, but would not have those multimedia
Yeah.
items like video or pictures.
Mhm.
Maybe audio recordings.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe
Yes.
somebody has made like just a short audio record, because people do have different learning modalities. For some
Mhm.
people, it might be easier to talk about something
Yeah.
than to actually write it down. So I think it's very useful to have all these modes and types of media included in one place, so you can also find the right way for you to engage with the content.
Absolutely, yes. That's exactly what I mean. People need to engage with what is offered in a center of excellence, and the more engaging this content is, the more efficient a center of excellence is. If you just create it as a, let's say, SharePoint wiki, as you just mentioned, well, it's mostly text-based. I have some hyperlinks and maybe a little bit of pictures here and there, but it's not that entertaining, right? But
Hmm.
um, well, we're talking about modern technology, and everything is getting modern these days. And there are so many options that organizations have to make reading fun, right? And
Hmm.
this is something you definitely need to do, and there needs to be much more than just a SharePoint wiki.
I see. I think that's a really important point to consider, because it does take a lot of effort. I know this from
Mhm.
our own company where we are in the process of writing down and documenting our processes. And it's hard to motivate people to do that. And therefore, it's very important to make clear that it's not a waste of time to do
Hmm.
so.
Yep. And think about using a different approach. And I think I mentioned that a couple of times in my session here. Um, at the moment I was, or at the beginning when I first saw it, I was very hesitant, but I soon realized that this is working well. And if you create documents or documentation based on this comic approach, for example, then it's much more fun to read. And people are very surprised. Hey, that is a corporate governance document. Well, you see, this looks like a comic to me. But if you want to explain your corporate governance policies, and sometimes they are quite hard to explain, to be honest. But if you
Mm.
make it fun to read, if you create a comic, for example, based on that, people are
Hmm.
reading it, people are engaged with it, people talk about it, and it's fun to read, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that is very important because it can be the best document ever created, but if nobody is using it, it's really not worth anything.
Yeah, but it takes a lot of effort. This is
Mm,
on the downside. Absolutely.
I see. Yeah, it's also important, I guess, for the people who are doing the documentation,
Hmm.
that for them it's not too much of a hurdle. At least the
Yes.
starting point is something they can
Yeah.
do fairly quickly.
Hmm.
So, and I see now something is happening in the chat. I'd love to see an example of a comic style governance document.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
me
can imagine.
too.
Yeah, I can imagine that, but unfortunately, this is not something I can share because a corporate governance document that belongs that belongs to the organization, the organizational
You have
topic.
to get hired from the for that
Uh,
company to see their
well,
governance
yeah. How about this?
comics.
How about this? I can try to get, let's say, a screenshot or something similar, and
Or
if I
could
get
you
allowed
include
to
that in your
publish that,
slides, maybe?
I like Sorry.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I said, could you maybe include that in your slides if you find something? Would that be possible?
I can, yeah, I might not be able to include that to my slides, but what I can do is once I have something, I can post it on my LinkedIn channel and let you know. So if there is something I can share, I'll let you know. So just have a look at my LinkedIn channel, or I can ping you, Michaela, and maybe you can send
Hmm.
out a kind of notification to all the attendees of this great team summit here, so that they know. I'll try to get a screenshot.
Well, if you find something, please send it to me in the next 1 or 2 days because then I will send out the PDFs and I would include that if you find something. So thank you for taking the effort of looking for it.
I can try, but no promises.
I see. Still, thank you for your presentation and thank you everybody for joining this session and for posting your questions. I have a few last words before I finish this session. So
Some
I'm
famous
going to
last words.
share
Okay.
the
Let-
famous last words. Well, I'm not sure if they are going to be famous, but I can try. All right. Famous last words. Ah, there is my presentation. Oh, famous last words. Can you see my screen?
Not yet. I can't.
No?
Nope.
Okay, give it a moment. Last session, it took like a few seconds.
Yep. Here's coming
Anything?
up. Yep. I can see it
All
now.
right. Waiting was rewarded. Okay, please reward us with your feedback. Scan this QR code and make a very short video, just 1 minute is fine. And tell us who you are and how you liked the summit. And we will reward you with a €25 or $25 Amazon gift card. So we would very much appreciate it if you give us some feedback for the summit that we can then share with future attendees so that they know what the experience is like for them. Also, all our sessions are being recorded and will be put on our YouTube channel. that you can subscribe and follow. It's the M365 Circle. And last but not least, our next summit is never too far away. This was the only international team summit that we're doing this year. So our next summits will all be in German. But I know that we do have a lot of German speaking attendees among you. So you are very welcome to join us on May 3rd for our M365 summits, where we will again have 4 tracks covering different topics from Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, Viva, and Power Platform. So if that is something you're interested in, you should definitely consider joining us there as well. And with that, I stop my screen sharing. And I say thank you, Oliver, for coming by and sharing your knowledge with us and the good tips that you gave to the questions and recommendations. I think it's a very important topic that you talked about today. And thank you for all our attendees. And don't miss out on our last session, which is the expert circle, where 4 of our experts will meet again and discuss about the topics of today. So don't miss out on that, and I'll see you there.
Right.
Have a good
Thank you
day.
very much, Michaela. It was a pleasure to speak at this great international team summit, and my kudos to the entire team. You did very well. I think it's a lot of work for you to organize this, and I'm always happy to join, and I'm always happy to see that there are those kind of summits that are available to everybody. Great job. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this feedback. I appreciate it, and hope to connect to you soon again.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.